Sean Faolain was born John Francis Whelan in County Cork, Ireland on the 22nd of February 1900. Faolain studied in many universities throughout his life, including University College Cork, University College Dublin and Harvard University. Faolain served in the Irish Republican Army. Nationalism was ripe in Faolain's early years, which conditioned him as a loyalist national supporter. After the Civil War, like many, Faolain's nationalistic dreams were compromised. Faolain moved to America and England and did not return to Ireland until 1933. The time he spent away from Ireland mellowed his once impenetrable nationalistic views. When Faolain returned, he began to realise that Ireland had moved towards further conservative values, which Faolain heavily criticised. Leading up to the wake of the founding state, the pro-treaty forces sought to liberate Irish culture from British influence. The Gaelic revival sought to de-Anglicise Ireland and regain its traditional values in areas such as the language and arts. The tide of revolutionary ethos was stripped away and a shrewd country remained. In post-independent years, artistically, Ireland was a cultural wasteland after independence was gained. Conservatism was ripe and powerful from the 1930s to the 1950s. Faolain became increasingly concerned about the introduction of culture-numbing legislation, which included the Censorship of Publications Act 1929 and the Censorship of Films Act 1923. A committee was appointed by the Minister of Justice, Kevin O'Higgins, on the 12th of February 1926. The committee consisted of 2 laymen and 2 clergymen, 1 Roman Catholic and 1 Church of Ireland. The report of the committee was submitted to the Minister of Justice on the 28th of December 1926. The report recommended that the sale and circulation of books, magazines and pamphlets advocating the unnatural prevention of conception be made illegal, except to authorised persons, and be punishable by adequate penalties. Under the Censorship of Publications Act 1929, the Minister of Justice was empowered to set up a censorship board. The board recommended to the Minister the permanent prohibition of any public book or periodical it deemed to be, in its general tendency, innocent or obscene, or if it advocated contraception or abortion. The board released a list of banned books and periodicals, which was available for public inspection. Examples of the censored writing includes Mary Lavelle by Kate O'Brien. In 1947, this book was banned as the female protagonist had an affair with a married man. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, The Ginger Man by J.P. Dunleavy, The Borsal Boy by Brendan Meehan, which was rejected for its critique of the Irish republicanism and the Catholic Church, and its depiction of adolescent sexuality. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger was also censored. 1941 to 1954. The Bell was a periodical that engaged in social and political issues in Ireland during its time. The Bell was comprised of sketches, advertisements, writings and letters of 1940s and 1950s Ireland. The Bell became better known as being a refuge for forward-thinking writers. There was a general inclusion of all individuals, and they were linked together through the periodical. Faolain encouraged the work of many young artists. Writers such as John Montague, Brendan Behan, James Plunkett, Michael McLafferty all contributed to the magazine. The Bell refused to be suffocated by the conservative Irish state. Faolain became a vital figure for the intellectual development in Ireland. Presumably, the Bell did not receive any funding from the state. A letter can be viewed from Peadar O'Donnell in the National Library of Ireland. O'Donnell, a fellow publicist of the Bell, wrote to the Irish Trade and Workers' Union asking William O'Brien to take out an advertisement in the Bell. Exiles of writers stagnated cultural developments in Ireland. It cannot be denied that the banning of writers in Ireland was to blame for the lack of cultural innovation in the post-independent years. Sean Faolain is a great example of a revolutionist during the Ireland's turmoil war years who was forced to revolt against his own country. The Bell comprised of great Irish writers who were exiled from publication. It was not until a new censorship board was appointed in 1957, when an easing of restrictions against literature and the previous censorship board were condemned as being too narrow in their outlook. They were especially narrow towards banning of books by Irish writers. A number of books remained to be banned, however, it was an achievement for writers who rebelled against censorship during this time.